We have answers, and the answer is yes. Oregon jumps Ole Miss and moves to the number 6 spot. One of the other questions as well, did Utah's close call open the door for, say, Miami? Yes, it did. Miami now inches a little bit closer to the field at number 12 right now. A lot of the top teams remain unchanged as you get a look at the bracket. If the season were to end today, which as we know it does not, Tulane would be the projected Group of 5 champion out of the American. And also Miami still in that placeholder spot at 11, which is very, very confusing to folks, and I can understand why. But that is essentially reserved for the ACC champion. We'll get to that in just a second, guys. Let's start our dialogue with the biggest game, the biggest win of the weekend, and that was Oregon's win over USC. Warranted that the committee moved them ahead of Ole Miss in this week's ranking, despite the fact that Ole Miss didn't play a football game this past weekend, Maddie?
I think it is a little bit out of sight, out of mind, right, for the committee this past weekend. And, of course, Oregon, the way that they won, the physicality that they showed, the fact that they can run the football, it seems like their young quarterback seems a little bit more mature, more experienced. And I think more so we got to put the focus on the fact that Oregon's defense, right, it's a physical unit, right? It's led by Bryce Betcher, who is one of the better middle linebackers in the league. Dylan Fenneman is a phenomenal safety there. And, of course, Manti Uiagalelei at defensive end / defensive tackle, whatever he is. He kind of does it all for this team. Flowers as well. Yeah. So you could see that this unit on the defensive side has a lot to it. They're getting better. They're more experienced. They're a tougher football team. I keep going back to that matchup against Iowa where I just feel like that's where Oregon really started to learn how to cut their teeth as far as just a tough football team. So I think for the committee, my question I think to you guys is, does the committee knock Ole Miss one spot because it's more about what's happening outside of football than it is between the lines playing the game right now?
I think it's tough to ignore what's going on
a little bit
with Ole Miss, because right now we're waiting for the decision after the Egg Bowl. We know that the committee has said that there are 2 things that can affect your ranking. It is players that may or may not get injured, and we know that happened with Florida State that one year. And
it's the Jordan Travis rule.
Right, yeah. Coaches can also affect your ranking, and I think we're all waiting to see what's going to happen with Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin as things go forward. But I think it is justified to see Oregon take that jump. Right now, they are the number 1 rushing team in the Big Ten. We saw how physical they can be as a football team, putting up over 250 yards rushing against Iowa and then putting up another monster game rushing against USC. And they were able to be effective at all 3 phases of the game, but yet they were missing 3 offensive linemen, 3 backup offensive linemen that they were playing, missing 2 of their starting wide receivers. And then you get production from not just your offense and defense, but also special teams. Malik Benson with a huge punt return for them. So I think the committee just saw how complete this football team is, even with key injuries towards their roster.
Look, there's still a path to the Big Ten title game for the Ducks. If Michigan were to beat Ohio State, that opens up the door for Oregon.
Right.
I'll ask you guys, there were questions about Oregon's resume on the whole prior to the USC game.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, a win over USC and a team that has injuries of their own, especially in the secondary of that defense, is enough to vault them over Ole Miss that does have a win against a College Football Playoff Committee top 10 team in Oklahoma.
Well, and that's where I would just say, unfortunately for me and all that, I mean, I think
Tulane, you mentioned
the better win is Oklahoma. They have Tulane as well on their resume, right? So that's another team that's playing in the playoff as well. And I think just for this football team, you have a close loss to a Georgia football team who we think now at this moment might be one of the best teams in the country.
Agreed.
Right? So in the whole grand scheme of it, I do think that Ole Miss has the better resume, but we are going to go back to the recency bias and also what we're seeing on film. I would say that I would favor Oregon as a whole a little bit more right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, outside of the Trojans' victory, Oregon's best win is a narrow 2-point win against Iowa, a team that has 4 losses on their record now. Don't disrespect. Iowa's a good football team, right?
Got a lot of good wins.
They'll drag you into a dogfight.
Right.
We just know that's how Iowa operates. Yeah. But I do agree with you. Ole Miss does have the better wins right now, but we're in a situation where we're picking hairs.
Yeah.
And we see on tape that Oregon's a better team.
No doubt. And Ole Miss, I think, I don't know if they jump Oregon again with a win at Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl this weekend. What could change things is the Lane Kiffin decision as well. That is what everyone is going to be waiting on. All right. Like we all predicted back in August, we would be sitting here at this desk talking about the ACC conundrum. And here we are, because there is a scenario in which the ACC has 6 teams that are making their way to a potential conference championship game. Obviously, all 6 will not make it, but Miami still sits at the committee's number 11 spot there as a placeholder for the ACC champion. It is very much a long shot that Miami can make the playoff as the ACC champion. Their best case is likely going to be as an at-large team. But I'll ask you, Maddie, is their at-large resume with a win over a Pittsburgh team that just demolished Georgia Tech this past weekend, by the way, is that enough to get them in the field as an at-large, or does it really just depend on what happens around them?
I think it does depend on what happens around them, right? Because I go back to that loss against Louisville, right? That has not aged well, right? That loss against Louisville. But you're still holding on to the win against Notre Dame, of course, right? You're holding on to the win against South Florida, which at that time was important as far as just the grand scheme of things. But outside of that, it is hard to kind of find, like, signature wins by Miami, where you can feel like super confident at their placement. And also, too, like, what are we doing in this modern age of like, I think we're pretty logical here. Why are they at the 11th spot if they can't even win the damn conference?
I agree. That's
where I'm just like, we're misleading their fans.
Yes.
Sorry,
all of
fans.
College football.
I told you last week I felt bad for the fans, and you told me not to feel bad for them.
You're right, but I guess now, and this is the great thing about time. As I have more time to think about it, I just don't like, what we're doing here, right? We're misleading. And also, too, it's just like we're playing with the heartstrings a little bit too
really
much,
are.
right?
Yeah.
With all that being
Miami
said,
fans.
we know how talented Miami is, right? And, of course, Heather says it best. If you would just taking care of business, against SMU or Louisville, we wouldn't be here in this discussion because we know that their roster and their talent is as good as anybody in the country.
I will say this, right? You just brought up how we know how talented Miami is. And the beauty of sports and life is sometimes you play towards your ceiling and your potential, and other times you play towards your floor. And we've seen Miami play towards their floor and not play towards their potential twice in the games that they lost this season. But if Miami plays towards their ceiling and they go against Notre Dame again, and these two teams are playing their best ball, because if Carson Beck doesn't throw 4 interceptions in that game, right, we're talking about a completely different team.
Yeah.
Who ends up winning that game? I know we're looking at different teams that have had different gains towards the season, but I think Miami is still a really talented team.
Well, this weekend's going to tell us a lot as well,
Yeah.
because the committee looks at common opponents. And we saw what Notre Dame did when they went to the Steel City and took care of their business. So now it's Miami's turn to kind of answer the call and take care of business against Pitt as well.
Is this now, though, where the committee is helping out Miami and the ACC as well as a whole by the 2 not ranked teams now in the top 25 as far as SMU and Pittsburgh? Right, that's where I feel like the committee as a whole is kind of like looking out, right, for the ACC, for Miami, for that potential, right, avenue for them to make it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I would agree. And we can also, by the way, we can dispel the ACC doomsday scenario with these rankings. Pitt, SMU, and Virginia all have the best chances of playing in the conference championship game. And by and large, the chances of one of them getting a win over the other one is going to be a better win than James Madison is going to get in their conference.
And not only that, for Notre Dame, USC is still in the rankings. There's the back end of the rankings. They may not matter towards a college football playoff, but it does matter to the teams that beat them. Is that team that we beat still in the top 25? Well, okay, cool. We can use that towards our case and our resume. And for Notre Dame, USC is still there. They only dropped a couple of spots.
I would flip this on you too, Matty, and you brought up SMU.
Yeah.
This is going to sound bad.
8-3 football team right now, 6-1 in the conference.
But is it somewhat of an indictment on the ACC to have SMU, a team that was playing in the AAC 2 years ago? They won that conference 2 years ago.
Yeah.
To potentially have SMU come into your conference, go to the championship in year 1, potentially go to the championship in year 2. Like, what does that say about the overall strength of this league?
It
this
sounds
is not
like it was
shot.
a great move to bring SMU into our league.
Not a shot at Rhett Lashley at all and his team, because credit to them, they prepared to come into this league. But what does that say about the rest of the league, that they could have a chance to play in the conference championship back-to-back years? But they're not even getting a cut of the media rights yet.
Which is crazy.
Well, thank you for reminding me that aspect of it, because they have definitely been helping the ACC a lot with the action that they've done the past 2 years. But yeah, I mean, lo and behold, like, this is where I think just the conference discussions are really interesting, because I think nobody does a better job at branding their entire conference than the SEC does.
Right.
Right. And I think that's also why the SEC, like, we're banging at the door trying to get a 5th, a 6th, a 7th damn team in the playoffs, right? Because of that power of our conference. So for SMU, new to the conference, it's the same thing for Texas and SEC, right? Like, hey, they're part of the conference now. They're part of the tapestry of the new history that you're creating there. And SMU's been performing extremely well, and they deserve their credit that they have earned.
All right, very good. Look at the chance to send multiple teams to the
Says
playoff.
very good. It's just not the answer he was looking for.
I will just SMU and Texas, maybe different teams by and large.